All right, you ready?
All right.
Going. Go ahead.
Hey, welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love. And hey, sitting to my left is none other than the General, Attorney Greg Jackson.
Once again, it's on, brother love. Hey, no, you know how to get this thing started, man. How's this weekend, this past weekend?
Man, weekend was lovely, man. Just enjoying life, Greg. A lot of things going on, man. How about yours?
So now, you know, brother love, every now and again, I like to exercise my Second Amendment right. So,
Oh, freedom of speech.
right, no, that's the First
Oh,
Amendment.
the First
Second
Amendment.
is
Second.
the right to bear arms.
Oh, so hey, you know what? And sitting next to you, you use freedom of speech so doggone much. So, Greg, what did you go to the
To the gun show this weekend.
Oh, you went to the gun
Yeah,
show?
yeah, no. They had the gun show this weekend, so I went out and got myself a couple new tools.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But I already saw your hardware before, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you got some. You got. Greg, I'm trying to think, man. Do you still have that specialized?
I got everything. I got that. I got it, and this weekend I got a little something else. But so yeah, that was my weekend this weekend, man. But listen, for those who are hearing these two voices, you're tuned in to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday night. This podcast is Let's Talk Nation Network. Brother Love and Greg Jackson guaranteed to raise your IQ 10 to 15 points, and on some nights, Brother Love, we get them up to 25 or 30. Yes, sir. So tonight, Brother Love, we have some great topics that we're going to be talking to the folks about. But one of the first things, man, I think that we need to hit on is the fact that we now have the two candidates set for the Democratic Party and for the Republican Party for the presidential election in the form of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And some of the big news that has come out, Brother Love, is that Donald Trump's former running mate, his vice president, Mike Pence, has indicated that he is not going to be endorsing Donald Trump.
When did that come out?
That came out on Friday, if I recall, right?
Okay, so what's been the blowback on that? Because I know it's some blowback on it.
Well, listen, that's the question. That's the question. I mean, how much weight does Mike Pence really and truly carry in terms of votes? But the more damaging part of it, Brother Love, is the fact that the guy that used to rock with Donald Trump during his administration is now saying that he won't endorse him. So, I mean, the blowback in and of itself is the fact that he doesn't have, the thumbs up from his former vice president.
But Greg, I mean, here's the other side, though. I got to ask, how many candidates was in that primary?
Now, which one, for the Republicans?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we got up to 7.
6 or 7, right?
Yeah, we got up to 7.
Okay,
and
and
if not more.
Okay, also, man, but wasn't Pence one of the first to go ahead and suspend his campaign?
He was.
So,
and for those who don't understand political speak, suspending the campaign means I quit.
I quit.
That's what he did. I quit.
But great, you suspend your and I'm not defending anything, but when you suspend your campaign and you're one of the first to do it, that means the following behind you wasn't that strong.
Well, I mean, listen, he raised the least amount of money than most of the other candidates, which I thought was a little bit surprising. I think that if anyone remembers, I said that I thought that Mike Pence was probably going to be one of the stronger candidates running for president.
But why did you think that, though, Greg?
I mean, listen, he's a former governor, first and foremost, so he has the executive experience. He is
Governor of
Virginia?
No, it wasn't Virginia. Indianapolis, is it? Or
No, not Indianapolis.
Indiana?
Indiana, maybe it's Indiana. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it's Indiana. Yeah. And he was a former governor. He's a former, U.S. congressman, and he was a former vice president. And so, my thought process was, listen, this guy is the person that can, potentially get that nod.
But Greg, I guess, man, when you look at campaigns now and sensationalism, think about some of the folk that, what was his name, who would come out and just, in my opinion, say some of the things that just would antagonize folk, and I'm talking about Vivek.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
And he's one of the ones that kind of stayed in it for a while.
Well, but listen, he stayed in it because he was polling better than Mike Pence. I think Vivek Ramaswamy was, so I think it was Vivek, then DeSantis, then Haley. So I think Vivek was like one of the top 4 candidates in the race, even above former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
Yeah, you're right.
And so, but Vivek, he did Well, and Tim Scott came out even before Vivek. So yeah, I mean, I think Tim Scott was maybe like number 6 in the lineup of things. But what did they do aside from Chris Christie and so far Nikki Haley is when they dropped out of the race, they came back and they endorsed.
Greg, you bring
Trump.
up a good question. Did Nikki Haley endorse Trump yet?
Not yet, but remember what I told you now. I told you she was going to be quiet for a while. I personally still think that there's some conversations going on behind the scenes, and I think that, listen, if I'm reading the tea leaves right, and I could be wrong, I've been wrong once or twice. Once or twice, all right, once or twice. And if I'm reading the tea leaves right, I'm thinking that the Republican ticket, will probably be Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. I think that that's a wise move. That's a smart move. Anytime you put on the stage for vice president, Kamala Harris versus anyone else, I think that Nikki Haley is probably the person that can handle Kamala Harris better than anyone else that they can put on that stage.
Greg, let me ask you this, man. What normally is the timeline by which a presidential candidate, identifies the running mate? Yeah.
I mean, the convention. So we'll find out at the convention, at or about the time of the convention, which is in June, July.
Okay, so we got
Yeah, we got a little bit of time, and that's what remember what I said, that Nikki Haley, she's going to drop out of the race, she's going to be quiet for a while, and then at some point in time, I think that there's going to be an announcement that Trump and Haley is the ticket. Like I said, that would be what the smart money would be on, particularly since you have Donald Trump, who is still making some political faux pas, if you would, even as he has secured the the nomination or the nod of the GOP.
Greg, I don't know, man. I have to break for a second. I got about 4 or 5 texts over here asking, where are you guys shooting from?
Listen, we are in the illustrious studios, Let's Talk Nation studios. El Rushbo would call it the Golden Towers. We're going to call this the Sterling Silver Towers.
The Sterling Silver. Hey, folks, hey, man, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
and you know what? Come to Disney and come to Central Florida. Come to Orlando.
Well, but listen, though, here's the other thing, too, and we haven't done this a whole lot only because we haven't had to, but if anyone wants to advertise during Let's Talk Nation, you can do so. All you got to do is reach out to Doc Polite, whatever the contact information is. And as you can see, we have continued to grow. We have continued to put forth a product that is second to none, and it's going to continue to grow. So if you want to be a part of what Let's Talk Nation is doing, not just from the standpoint of putting together your own show or different things like that, but also advertising on Let's Talk Nation and being able to touch our numerous viewers and listeners from all across this great nation. I mean, we have folks from California, we've had folks from Colombia, we have people from all over the world that listen to the show, and so this would be a great opportunity for whomever would like to advertise.
And that email address is info@ltnnetwork.net. Once again, info@ltnnetwork.net. And also, hey, look, if you want to call in and join the conversation, that phone number is 689-686-4405. Once again, 689-686-4405.
All right, so let's get back to your best friend,
Okay.
Donald Trump.
Oh, hey, don't say my best friend now.
Let's get back to your boy.
I'm not going to even
Let's
let
get
you
back
do
to
that.
your boy.
I'm not even going to let you do
So-
that. But go ahead, Greg.
So
Attorney
listen,
Greg Jackson.
So listen, Trump has secured the nomination for the Republican Party. And he's out on the stump. I forget where he was now, wherever they were campaigning this past weekend. And he basically said, and listen, man, on the heels of everything that's taking place, and even if one would believe that January 6th was not an insurrection, which I don't believe that was an insurrection. We talked about this on the show before, what an insurrection is. I don't think it was an insurrection, but I think it was irresponsible in terms of the speech that was used on that day. I will say that. But on the heels of that, Brother Love, and on the heels of there being, trial dates coming up to deal with what's taking place with the January 6th incident, Donald Trump was out this weekend, and he basically said that if he is not elected, that there's going to be a bloodbath. All right?
He actually said that?
Yeah. Yeah. He said there's going to be a bloodbath. Now, apparently there was more to it to put it in context, and what his campaign is saying is that when he said that, he meant there's going to be a bloodbath in terms of the economy. Now, I didn't hear that part, not to say that that wasn't said, but I didn't hear that part. But, let's assume that that's true, that he was talking about it's going to be a bloodbath with regards to the economy. Why in the world, Brother Love, would Donald Trump use those words on the heels of everything that he's dealing with?
And you're right, Greg. And words have power, especially with the platform that he has. And so, Greg, I don't know, man, what other word to describe it, because I hadn't heard that as of yet. So, with that being said, Greg, man, that's irresponsible, man. Just think about some of the rallies that he had when he was running, and folk that was in opposition that were protesting his rallies, and then you actually saw people get physical, and he would say, "I would pay for your attorney if you." I mean, that. Come on now, come on. That's irresponsible, man.
It most certainly is, and I mean, especially now, and the reports are coming out that more and more people are that his rallies are getting smaller and smaller in terms of numbers, but also the same is true for Joe Biden. Word is getting out that people are not excited about the two candidates on the Republican, the candidates on the Republican and the Democrat side in terms of the presidency. And so, when those things are happening, you have to do all that you can to preserve potential votes. And, one of the things that people have said about Trump, and I mean, even African Americans have said this, Brother Love, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but even African Americans have said that under Donald Trump, that economically they were doing better. Under Donald Trump, they felt that the border was more secure. Under Donald Trump, they did not feel or believe that there would be these conflicts that are taking place that the U.S. is now involved in. And so, if you want to tout your accomplishments and the things that draw people together, why would you make such a careless statement like that?
Man, I mean, there's no excuse for that.
And so, I think that Donald Trump and whoever his team is, that they need to really sit down and think about what they're going to do to help him to understand that there has to be a better way to convey his message. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, if Donald Trump would not have said anything during the last presidential election, I think he would have won. I think it was the fact that he kept going back and forth. I think that it was his abrasiveness that really and truly had people not voting for Joe Biden, but voting against Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And he's putting people in that same position now that they're not necessarily going to be voting for Joe Biden. They may be just voting against him because he continues to say these divisive things.
But Greg, you bring up a point, man, and I get to a place where it just makes you scratch your head that there's some folk, man, that was very well respected in spite of whatever the political party affiliation is. Who's going to step up, no matter what party affiliation, and in particular I'm saying Republican Party, that's going to say, I don't agree with that. That's not what you want to say to the United States community, man, from the standpoint that you've got a lot of folk out there that will take what you say and act on it.
I mean, but listen, for the longest time now, Donald Trump has had this chip on his shoulder. And, dare I say, rightfully so. From the very moment that he stepped into the White House, or from the very moment that he won the election in 2016, they were already calling him an illegitimate president. They were already saying that there were going to be steps to impeach him before he even did a single thing. And so, I think legitimately so, he has been operating with the chip on his shoulder. But I think at some point in time, he's going to have to put that New York attitude aside and say, listen, this is not just about me. This is about winning a campaign based on the things that I can do for this country, based on what I've proven, what I can do. Because like I said, like him or not, there are a lot of people who, under the Trump administration, feel that they were doing better. Mm-hmm. And listen, if we're going to be, if we're going to be real about it, at one point in time, if I call it a pay, I call it a paycheck anymore. Mm-hmm. It's much bigger than a paycheck now. I'm gonna leave it that way. I'm leave it that way. It is. It's much bigger than the paycheck now. But at one point in time, when I had a paycheck, when Donald Trump became president, I saw literally almost $1,000 more per month in my paycheck because of the tax break, which wasn't for the rich because I'm not rich. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I wasn't rich. But I saw things that were taking place. Now, a lot of people felt like that. Home ownership for minorities was up. there were a lot of things that were taking place that were moving in the right direction. Where if he just kept his mouth shut,
yeah.
and if he keeps his mouth shut, I think that he has a very good chance of winning this upcoming
Greg,
election.
where's that fine line when we talk about how, and you and I both know, sensationalism sells.
Of course.
But where is that fine line? I mean, because when you say that a statement is made that if I'm not elected, there'll be a bloodbath, Greg, that to me crosses the line of just sensationalism.
Yeah.
That's when it gets real dangerous.
Yeah, and like I said, let's put it in context, and let's say this. Let's Talk Nation is probably one of the smartest audiences out there, and one of our shining stars on the list of pupils of Let's Talk Nation is none other than Mr. John Burns.
Oh yeah,
That's my good friend.
Yeah.
That's my buddy John. And so John is actually saying that he was referring to how China is building EV car plants in Mexico, and if he gets elected, that he would place a tariff on these vehicles, which I think is a good idea. That would be double the price of the vehicles. He then said if he doesn't get elected, that there would be a bloodbath on the economy. So remember I said that he said that there would be a bloodbath on the economy. I guess though, just going back to, to where we are and people finding and wanting reasons not to support Trump, I think his word selection should have been and could have been better. Instead of saying, it'll be a bloodbath, it won't be good. Listen, why not just say it won't be good for our economy? You know what I'm saying?
But Greg, I go back to the point in case when he was running, and I mean, you remember this, everybody remember this, when he said he could walk down, was it Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
And
shoot somebody in the head and
get away with it.
Not now. You can do it now. Oh man, not listen, Trump can't even he can't even have a business in New York right now.
But you can't say stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
Especially when you are in a capacity where, man, you're one of the most powerful human beings on the planet.
But listen, think about where he comes from, man. I mean, he's from a wealthy family anyways. He's from the city that never sleeps. He's from a very competitive background. And like I said, going into his presidential, time serving as president, he came in with the chip on his shoulder because of how he was treated. Which, listen, I thought it was unfair. I really truly thought it was unfair because, like him or not, at that point in time, he was the president of these United States, and let's see what he can do. Just like when Joe Biden was elected, I didn't think that Joe Biden was the right selection, but we sat here and we said, let's give him a chance.
Yeah, you said where he came from, and I understand the New York piece, but he's a Florida resident right now.
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Hey,
No.
don't Floridians have swag too?
Listen, man. Listen. As a native Floridian, you're a native Floridian.
Yes.
All right. As a native Floridian, I have mandated, and as a native Floridian, as a general of Let's Talk Nation, I have mandated that you have to be in the state of Florida at least 20 years before you have any type of status as a Floridian. So you gotta have 20 years under your belt, man. We got to make sure that you're here and that you're gonna contribute. So he has some years before we give him any Florida swag. So he's still a New Yorker who has relocated to the state of Florida. So that's who he is.
Well, Greg, that's going to continue. Oh, Greg, what's the update regarding Fannie Willis? And I know we gave a bit.
No. It's Fonnie.
Fonnie.
Don't call her Fannie. Don't call her Fannie. She get mad at you.
Fonnie. Hey,
she get mad at you call her Fannie.
You know what? My mama named Fannie.
Hey, listen, I'm telling you what she said,
Okay.
man. I call her Fannie too, but apparently she doesn't like me. But listen, and I'm glad you asked, Brother Love, because this is, just another part of what Trump is going through, particularly in the state of Georgia. This is the election interference case where District Attorney Fonnie Willis had initiated a case against Trump, and I want to say 18 or 17 other individuals because of suspected election interference. And so as the case was going on, it came out that Fonnie Willis and the special prosecutor that she hired, that they were having a romantic, or that they had entered into a romantic relationship. Now the problem became, Brother Love, is that romantic relationship, a lot of folks were saying, a lot of folks being his former lawyer and law partner and her friend, that relationship started before she became DA. And so she hired him, and this is where the other problem comes in, she hired him to be special counsel, even though he had never tried or handled a felony case like this.
Never.
Ever. And so...
but what about the other individuals that were hired. I mean, do you?
Yeah, there were two other law firms that were hired as well who have extensive experience in RICO cases, because this is a RICO type case. And so with him having the least amount of experience, he was paid the most amount of money. And we talked about this before, but look, I mean, one law firm was paid, I want to say, $50,000, $60,000. The other law firm was paid maybe $70,000, $90,000. And Nathan Wade's law firm, Nathan Wade, was paid almost $700,000 for the work that he did or was supposedly doing, even though he had never done these types of cases. And so he was also going through a divorce at the time, and this is where things started to unravel, because in his affidavit for his divorce, he noted that he didn't have certain monies or certain assets, but when you go back and look at the money he was being paid, he had substantial monies that were coming in because he was being paid to be the special prosecutor. And the bigger issue, Brother Love, is that people were saying that Fonnie Willis was benefiting financially from hiring her boyfriend, her lover, so to speak, and to the tune of several $100,000 going on lavish vacations and trips and different things like that. And so the judge in the case had to listen to all of this and to determine if there was a conflict of interest between Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade.
So with that being the case, and I don't want to cut you off, but I want to kind of slow walk this thing. Was the Trump trial that Ms. Willis was prosecuting, was it placed on hold while this started?
That's a great question. And it was, because they had to determine if there was a conflict, because what the attorneys for the defendants were asking for was for the district attorney and the special prosecutor to be removed from the case. So before they could proceed, the judge had to stop everything, listen to all of this evidence, and make a determination if he was going to remove them from this case. Now, here's the interesting thing about the love. Nathan Wade was asked to testify. Now, part of the reason he was asked to testify is because in a separate proceeding, legal proceeding, which was his divorce, he had stated certain things, so there was a conflict of his testimony in that court proceeding and what was being said in this court proceeding, what potentially would have come out in this court proceeding. Fonnie Willis did not even have to take the stand.
But she did.
Understand what I'm telling you?
Yeah.
Fonnie Willis, the judge had not even determined or required her to take the stand. Fonnie Willis, in her arrogance, after Nathan Wade had testified, her words, not mine, she ran to the courtroom because she figured that she would be next. And she ran to the courtroom to testify about her relationship with Nathan Wade. She ran to the courtroom to testify about the fact that, yes, he paid for these trips, but she paid him back. But she paid him back in cash, but she couldn't show how, where the cash came from and all the other stuff. She even had her dad that was involved, which is sad, because her dad in and of himself is a giant, if you ask me. I never knew anything about her dad until this case. But apparently he was a legal giant in terms of the work he's done in the legal field. And so this became a big mess, a big mess. And so the judge, to give the update, Brother Love, the judge on Friday, because the judge said, give me 2 weeks and I'm going to make a ruling. The judge came back and the judge basically said, under the law, I don't think that there is enough for there to be a conflict of interest if Nathan Wade is removed from the case. If Nathan Wade or the district attorney is removed from the case. So he basically gave them a choice as to who would be removed from the case. Now, but what the judge also said is that there was a clear showing of inappropriate behavior, and dare I say, instances where the judge believes that there may have been some false testimony given to the court about Ms. Willis's and Mr. Wade's relationship with each other. And so while Nathan Wade removed himself from the case and Fonnie Willis has stayed on the case, there's still this big cloud, Brother Love, about what's going to take place with this case, because any evidence that was gathered as a part of this case while Nathan Wade was a part of it is basically poison fruit.
Okay, and I get that, Greg, but kind of back up for a quick second. When you said the judge made the ruling that the prosecution can go forward, but Attorney Wade or the district attorney would have to step back, right?
That's right.
But Greg, isn't that a no-brainer? The district attorney is prosecuting the case out of their office. So was it ever a doubt who was going to have to step down?
I mean, listen, there couldn't have been a doubt because Nathan Wade has no experience with these types of cases. He should not have been there in the first place. Clearly, there's something going on. Now, what I'm going to say also is that people should not be jumping up and down and clicking their heels for finding Willis on this case because she's allowed to remain on this case. Because what has happened over the past month is that there has been testimony and there has been indications that Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade have acted unethically. And there's going to most certainly be some additional fallout from what occurred. And so while she may remain at this point in time as the prosecutor on the case, that's not a good thing. And there are a lot of people that are saying, even Democrats that are saying, that she should remove herself from this case so that it is allowed to move forward on its merits and not with this cloud of stuff.
But when you say her removing herself from this case, Greg, can she actually, I mean, isn't the jurisdiction out of her office? I mean, if she herself wasn't involved in the prosecution is still taking place out of her office, right?
I mean, listen, it happens. It happens. So it happened here in the state of Florida.
So another district attorney
Can pick it up.
out of that circuit can pick it up.
Or if the governor of the state of Georgia is anything like the governor of the state of Florida, he could remove her as because remember, there's still some investigations going on about this on the state level as well as on the federal level, because Congress has subpoenaed documents that she has not provided. The governor of the state of Florida has instituted a committee that can look into unethical behaviors or activities of elected officials. So again, there are she's not in the clear. Let me just say it like that. To what extent this is going to go, I don't know. But if it's an indication as to what's been taking place, she's neither her or Nathan Wade are in a good position.
There's more to come.
More to come, most certainly.
Well, great, man. Moving forward, man. Local elections.
Well, Brother Love, tomorrow is the election for places like Apopka, Eatonville, Winter Park, and I want to say it's one other. Also, for the not that it really matters for us, but not us Democrats, anyways. I don't know about Republicans, but for us, the primary vote for who do you select as president? I mean, on my ballot, it didn't have anybody because I'm a Democrat. And Joe Biden has been the presumptive nominee anyways, but I think on Nikki Haley may still be on the Republican ballot. I don't know. So
she was.
Oh, she was?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Was anyone else? Nikki Haley and was DeSantis on there still?
I believe he was.
Okay, all right. Because they were the last two to leave.
But it also comes down to the different municipalities. When did they print those ballots?
That's true.
So I mean, but we already know now who is the presumptive GOP presidential.
But listen, though, even though we say that he's a presumptive, this could be something like what happened in Michigan with Joe Biden, where people voted, not committed or non-committal, and people could vote for Nikki Haley or for Ron DeSantis as a protest for not voting for Donald Trump. That could very well happen. So it'll be interesting to see by what percentage he wins the Republican primary for president. But the more important thing, Brother Love, about the local elections is that typically with local elections are off of the presidential cycle, which the presidential cycle is really and truly in November. People don't come out to the polls to vote much, and turnout is abysmal. And so I'm hoping, Brother Love, that those in Let's Talk Nation and the various municipalities across the country, wherever it is, that they do get out and they exercise their right to vote. Now, I get a lot of flack for this, Brother Love. I know I do. I understand that I do. I say that even if you go and you just sign your name on your ballot and you don't put a single person's name down, or you don't vote for a single person, at least go out and go to show that you came to express your vote, and your voice could be that you don't approve of anyone on there, but at least go out and let your vote or your non-vote be seen or at least accounted for.
Greg, let me ask you this, man.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Souls to the Polls?
That's a great question, brother. Man. That's a great question, and that's one of the things we're talking about. Souls to the polls, really and truly, the more bang for the buck comes during the presidential races, and so typically during like the primaries like this or during smaller elections, souls to the polls really are not as effective as they should be or could be. But even with that, I think that. And souls to the polls, for people who don't know, and I apologize if we're saying this and you already know, but there may be some who don't know about it. But souls to the polls is where African American churches have gotten together and they encourage individuals to go to vote on that last Sunday of the early voting cycle. And so, traditionally, that has been the time when either buses will come. As a matter of fact, when I was running for elected office, I actually rented a van and was willing to go back and forth from the churches to take people to the polls, that's souls to the polls. And it's supposed to be a time when, like I said, African American churches encourage their members to go to have their voices heard. Now, Brother Love, I don't know if African American churches are really doing that now. I don't know.
Well, I will say, just even from local community, that there was, a push for Souls to the Polls.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg, it was abysmal.
But listen, let's talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak. For years, Brother Lovin, we've been talking about this. So we're not geniuses by saying what we're saying. But for years, a number of black folks have become disenchanted with the voting process because what they see, and this is a true statement, Brother Love, because I see it, you see it, but what they see is that individuals who want to represent them and want to run for elected office, the only time they see them is during election time.
During election, yeah, you're right.
And after the election is over, they don't see those individuals anymore. Now, listen.
But Greg, can I put this on the table?
Go ahead, what you got?
I mean, if you had to look at a business plan,
Mm-hmm.
and, we've had conversation, and you could agree with me or not, but man, when I look at the Hispanic community and their political diversity, when I look at the Caucasian community and its political diversity, even the Asian community, and I'm not even going to leave out, we had the great pleasure of having Miss Sandra Fapney Hall on air last week. Man, the Haitian, the Caribbean community,
The Jamaican community.
diverse,
yeah.
the diverse political population, man. But Greg, if you look at just black folk, African American folk, and you talk about 90, 95%, Greg, to me, when you talk about needs of community, when you talk about going to advocate for your community's interest, to advocate for your economic interests, it's something missing there, man. I mean, it's not a balance whereby you go and you advocate and make the case politically that you have enough diversity to not only make the argument, but to come there and mobilize with voters.
So let's go back to what the problem is. That's what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about. So the problem is, so listen, how many, well, I guess they do. I just don't see it that much because I'm not in these churches. But the problem is that black voters are starting to feel more and more like they are nothing more than a number to the Democratic Party. And when candidates come into these churches and different things like that, they feel that these individuals are just using them. Let's just talk about what it is. And when you have someone like Charles Barkley that comes out and he says, listen, black folks are tired of elected officials coming to their churches only during election time, and that is reflective in the fact that fewer and fewer people are going to the polls. It's a real problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that just so long as political candidates continue to only show up when they need something, as opposed to showing up when there is a need for their influence, that you're going to continue to see, a drop in voters going to the poll. Now, listen, I'm not saying that to say that it's right. I'm not saying that to say that black folks, should stay home. What I'm saying is that we have to understand that that's why, for the most part, from what we're hearing, that's why it's happening. They have lost trust in elected officials, and elected officials should be ashamed to hear something like that.
But Greg, also, when you talk about losing trust, come on, man, I think there's an awakening that's taking place. You talk about Charles Barkley. He's everybody know Barkley is very outspoken.
Yeah.
But, man, I'm looking at some of these other personalities out there, Greg, that are reaching out to the younger generation. I don't know if it's the Breakfast Club that Charlemagne the God is on.
Right.
He came out, about a couple of months ago and said he was not voting for Biden. The guy who just, Mike. Killer Mike.
Yeah.
Killer Mike. And I like his disposition, man, when he talks about, hey, I'm going to vote for who has the best interest of me and my family and my community at heart. And he say, it may not be the traditional vote.
I mean, Ice Cube. Ice Cube has challenged and pushed back on the Democratic Party for failing to listen to their strongest base, which is the black vote. I just heard Sexy Red, who's another young rapper, which I don't listen to her music, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. And Sexy Red is a Trump supporter. Now, if I'm getting this wrong, y'all go to Google and tell them to stop putting that stuff on there. But I thought it was a surprise. But Sexy Red, a young African American female, is saying that she is not going to support Joe Biden. There was a conversation in a barbershop in Atlanta not too long ago, and there were a number of people in the barbershop who said that they voted for Joe Biden and they're not going to vote for him again. Now, that's a little bit different from what we're talking about for local elections, where people, they're getting tired of elected officials just coming to their church when they want something from them. This is more so a testament of African Americans feeling like when Joe Biden got into office, nothing changed to better their lives.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
You know what, Greg? I love to hear some other perspectives. You can call in and don't even give your name, but this is a good conversation. That call-in number is 689-686-4405. Because, Greg, you have more people having conversation now, and sadly to say, there is more folk that I'm hearing from now that are saying they don't believe that their vote counts, so they're not looking to go. And man, I'm encouraging folk to go and vote. We need to continue to have these kind of conversations, Greg, but it's very interesting, man, that you're seeing more personalities that are coming out and they're saying that they're breaking from tradition.
I mean, listen, like I said, and I'm not popular in my view on this, and I understand that. I think one of the greatest statements that the black community can make, even if you don't, even if you don't want to or you can't bring yourself to vote for Donald Trump, I think one of the greatest statements that the black community can make is to still go to the polls and leave the section blank. Don't vote for Biden, don't vote for Trump, vote for everything else on there, or just sign your name and just let people know that you were there as an indication of, listen, we're here, we just don't like what you stand for. We don't like what anybody stand for. And I think that if they start seeing that, I think that they would start taking the black vote more serious again. Because right now, what they feel, they being politicians, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, what they feel is that if it is an African American voter, that vote is going to go to a Democrat.
I'm gonna break it down a little bit even further for you, Brother Jackson.
What you got?
And I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. Greg, I do believe that black folk need to better understand free agency.
Of course.
Better understand free agency.
Of course. And like I said, I mean, and there are a lot of people that are saying that the African American voters are going to stay home. I think that is the very wrong move. Because if you stay home, that means that people don't see that we're out here, or they don't believe that we will come to the polls and vote. At least go turn in your ballot, and they'll see that African Americans will come to the polls, but you're not going to force us to go with the Democrat just because we're black. I mean, it's still offensive to me, Brother Love. It's still very much offensive to me when Joe Biden said that if you don't vote for me, you're not black. And I'm paraphrasing that. And he said that on when he was on a podcast with Charlemagne.
Yeah, you're right.
And Charlemagne didn't push back on that. I think that is extremely offensive to say just because of the color of my skin, or because of my race that I have to vote for a certain political party. That takes away any freedom that I have, and that's what this country is all about: having the freedom to to vote for who I want to vote for, to expound upon the beliefs that I have, just so long as it's not illegal or doesn't impede upon someone else's beliefs. And to say that I have to vote for you just because I'm black, I mean that's probably one of the most offensive things that I've ever heard. But it goes in line with who Joe Biden was before he began running for president. And I told people this, for the love. Go back and listen to the shows from 2015, 2016. When I talked, well, I'm sorry, that 2018, 2019, when we were talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump running. And I said that although I believe that Joe Biden was going to be the nominee, that he was not the right person for president, and I laid it out for people. And the things that I said about Joe Biden came to be true. Now, I didn't say that because I'm a Republican. I said that as a Democrat who wanted the strongest and best candidate put forth for my party. And Joe Biden was not and is not it. Listen, I wish, I still say Cory Booker would have been a better choice than him. That's what I say.
Greg, let me ask you this question. I mean, what have you heard about early voting?
Not a whole lot. It has not. But like I said, brother love, this is, these are local elections, and typically people don't come out for their local elections. People forget that politics is local. Mm-hmm. They forget that if your street light is out, if there are potholes on the roads, if there's this, the everyday things that affect your life, that is where your local officials come in. Then they forget that.
Yeah, but do you realize that there's a real small percentage of the population? I mean, if we look at districts and things of that nature, a small percentage of the population that are the ones that are going to vote, that are the ones that are going to be empowering a decision maker for how many times your garbage is picked up, crime in your community and things of that nature. And Greg, it unfortunately is that small percentage of the population that's putting people in office.
So let's break that down even more, brother love. And I'm only saying this just because I kind of know the numbers just right off. For the city of Orlando, I want to say there are 200,000 people, registered voters in the city of Orlando. And for the mayor's race, I think only 5 to 7% of the people turned out. So what does that mean? Anywhere between 10 and 21,000 people, if my math is right. Now, y'all got to forgive me, I'm not a mathematician. But only 20 some odd thousand people came out and voted and elected the person who is now the mayor of Orlando, which is one of the most progressive and fastest growing cities, in the country. And even for the commission races, when you look at that, I mean, for each commission area, 30, 40,000 people in each district for city of Orlando, 1,800, 3,000, 4,000 people come out to vote to put that commissioner in office. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's a small number of individuals who are coming out and electing individuals who are making decisions for everybody, for the entire district. And I think that people need to realize that, if you're going to complain about what's taking place, you at least have to come out and you have to exercise your right to vote.
Well, Brother Jackson, I do want to say this, because here's something that has flown underneath the radar. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but man, Mr. Glenn Galzine, the newly appointed supervisor of election for Orange County, he came out with something, Greg, that is right there in front of everybody's face. And what he decided to do was remove the mystique when folk want to talk about opening ballots and fraud and things of that nature. He came out and announced a couple of days, last week as a matter of fact, that his office will be live streaming elections and the opening of ballots.
Very nice.
Removing the mystique now.
Yeah.
And Greg, I haven't heard of this taking place anywhere else in the country. And so, I mean, man, Mr. Galzine is, you're familiar with him, man. This is a guy, man, that's been on the move, that's open, that's an innovative thinker. And to just say, hey, look, I'm going to remove the mystique completely. So when you guys see those returns coming in, you're going to see these cameras of my staff opening up the balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about that, Greg?
I mean, I think it's a good idea, and I think that that is something that has been called for, not just in Orange County, not just in Florida, but across, across the country. I think in Pennsylvania they were talking about how during the last presidential election, how they wouldn't even let the poll watchers within 6 feet or something like that of the ballots that are being counted, so they couldn't even see what was taking place. And so, I think that is the transparency that's needed, in these elections. Now, the other thing too is that, it's, Brother Love, I don't know if you remember, I first voted. The first time I voted was, but I just know that Bill Clinton was the first person I voted for, the first president I voted for, whatever year that was. And after I voted for Bill Clinton, within 24 hours of my vote, I knew who the president was.
Within 24 hours?
Within 24 hours, if I remember correctly. Now, as we have gotten, more technology or more technologically based in elections and different things like that, it seems like when we vote, it could potentially take days, if not weeks, to determine who the winner is of a particular race. So I think that transparency should help and will help with making sure that election results are more timely and more accurate.
Well, Greg, I just, I got to continue and just, I'll end on this note, man, with recognizing, man, and giving a real humble and sincere shout out when Glenn Galzine was at the Urban League, man, he was doing some great things. Then when he was appointed over the former Reedy Creek, became the Tourism Oversight District, man, went over there and just did some great innovative things. And Greg, he's not 11 days on the job as supervisor of elections, and has announced, man, this level of transparency to actually live stream what's taking place on election day. And Orange County, what, 5th largest municipality in the state of Florida?
Sounds about right.
So,
that sounds about right.
Greg, I mean, the guy is doing, no matter where he goes, man, he's always on the ball.
That also brings me, to a question, because when Mr. Galzine was appointed, there was a question that came out with, why him? Mm-hmm. Let's just break it down. Mm-hmm. Why him? And why would a guy leave a job paying X amount to take something that's paying less than that? Mm-hmm. Listen, and let me just say this first of all. I'm not in Glenn Galzine's pockets. Mm-hmm. Whatever decisions he makes financially are his decisions. But I will say this: when the governor of the state of Florida had an opportunity to appoint anyone that he wanted to, he looked to a young African American male who happens to be a Republican. Yeah. Let's just put it out there. Who happens to be a Republican, who I think, as you said, Brother Love, and this is why I'm making this point, where everywhere that he's gone, he has left those places in a better position. Yeah, you're right. From the Urban League to the district, to where he is now, his ideas, the innovation of his thoughts, and so I want people, especially my African American friends, because I'm African American too. I can say that. I can say that because I'm a black man. But I want black folks to stop this whole thing of, if a black person is appointed by a Republican, then they must be an Uncle Tom, or they must be a sellout, or they must be this. Look at it from the standpoint that if a Republican appoints someone, just like if a Democrat appoints someone, hopefully they are appointing a person who is the best fit for that position. Mm-hmm. And like I said, Glenn Galzine, from every step that I've observed him from, and I think that I've been knowing Glenn now for, I think we're going on 10 years now. Everywhere that I've seen this young man step and things that he's done, I've seen nothing but success.
I'll leave it on this note. Glenn was asked the question, and I don't remember which news station, I think it was Channel 2 or Channel 9, why him? And he gave the perfect response. Glenn has a track record. Glenn has a track record of being able to go wherever he's requested. And great, go there and employ some innovative approaches and make wherever he's going better.
Listen, so no one asked that question. I don't know if you remember Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete Antonacci.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
And
Exactly.
remember how many times was Antonacci put in positions and asked to go places?
And yeah, you're right. You know what? And that's the conversation that
Aaron Bird.
yeah.
How many times was Aaron Bird put into certain?
Mm-hmm.
So listen, this is not unusual.
You're right.
I don't know why I call him Uncle Pete. I don't know where I got that from. When I was with the Attorney General's office, that's just kind of what we do him as.
Greg, he I mean, and God bless the dead.
Yeah.
But he went to different places, different capacities around the state, and he did a great job.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, there's certain people that have certain skill sets that if you want things done in a level of of right accord, you call on them. And thankfully, Glenn Gelzine, similar to State Attorney Bain, similar to my good friend Rod Love, thank goodness that when the call comes, they have a willingness to serve, because people can easily say, I don't want to put up with these headaches, because this is not, being in the political arena, for what it's worth, is not something that you do because you're trying to be popular,
Well, man, hey, Greg, I tell you, the guy has done a yeoman's job, man, and tomorrow, as you mentioned, is election day. And so, man, I got one of our good friends. I wonder if he's going to give a shout out and encourage people to get out to vote. And not my good friend, our good friend.
Who you got?
Well, I'm reaching out to our good friend, Bishop Derek McCray, but it looked like
Hey, now he's busy, man.
yeah, he called in, and he called in and then dropped the call. But you know what, Greg? Man, tomorrow is gonna be very telling.
Listen, but listen, let's just be real about this, Brother Love. The numbers are gonna be low. It's not gonna be some swell of voters that all of a sudden comes to the polls. Hopefully the candidates who are running had a ground game, and that they had the people that they were able to get to the polls, because this is not a presidential election cycle, and it's just not going to be where you got 20%. I don't know if we get to 20% of the voters. I don't know if we get there, but if you get to 20%, even 20%, 25% would be amazing. But I don't even think we get there.
Well, Greg, there's I don't know if people realize, man, how important it's going to be tomorrow. I'm not going to, identify the municipalities, but man, it's time to get out and go let your vote count.
Listen, so again, like I say, Brother Love, we always encourage people to let their voices be heard. Again, I am of a different thought process. Let me look at Let's Talk Nation right here. I am of a different thought process. I know how some people say, hey, at least just vote for somebody, vote for the lesser of two evils. That is not my thought process. I would much rather go in and leave a section blank than to vote for the lesser of two evils. And so even if you just show up and you sign your name and you turn in your ballot, that's worth more than you not showing up at all. So, get out there, go to vote. And I will say this, Brother Love, we did a candidate forum last week, and we did a candidate forum over in the great city of Apopka at the Oasis Church. Pastor Barrios, thank you to him for opening up his church.
Oh, absolutely.
We had a great crowd. We had it live streamed and different things like that, and we only had 2 candidates to show up. We had Eric Mock for seat 4 for Apopka, and we also had Ms. Nadia Anderson for seat 3 to show up and to talk to voters about their ideas and things like that. And so if you want to hear that and hear from Apopka, you can go to our Facebook page and hear what they had to say. But I went and I voted, because I early vote. I always go in there early vote. And when I went out there, I was walking through the parking lot and I heard, hey, and it was Miss Anderson. And then shortly after she walked up, Mr. Mock came up. And I said, you know what? I said, y'all made it easy for my vote. Yeah. Because y'all were the only 2 who came and spoke to me about what you're about. Yeah. I don't know what the other candidate for seat 4 is about. I know that he's an incumbent, but I don't know what he's about. And Let's Talk Nation, the people that we were doing this for, don't know what he's about. And I most certainly don't know what the other person for seat 3 is about. except for, some Facebook posts by, by his dad. Listen, let's not put the sins of the father on the children, but if you don't step up and say, hey, I don't agree with this, then it kind of, imputes that onto you as well. But, they made my decision easy,
Yeah.
Brother Love.
You're right.
They were the only two people who came out. I heard what they said. I appreciated what they said. I could have easily walked in there like I normally say, and not vote for anybody, but they shared with me what they're about, and I believe them. And so I'm not, I'm like Mike Pence. I don't necessarily endorse, but I will encourage people to know who it is that I voted for. I voted for Eric Mock, and I voted for Nadia Anderson. I know a lot of people won't say that, and the reason why I'm telling you that is because I voted for them because they came out and they told me what they were about. Simple as that.
And they work for your vote. Hey, Brother Jackson, the clock on the wall tells us it all, man. And it's time for us to go. Brother, tomorrow is election day. We're encouraging people to get out to vote. Go let your position mean something in your community. The general.
No, before you do that, we have to let people know, because this is a topic that has been coming up a lot, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that want to hear about this. We're going to be talking about NILs, name, image, and likeness. So we're going to be talking about how it affects high school students, how it affects college students, what Nick Saban recently said, how Congress is trying to get involved. So that is going to be a big, big show that we want you all to check out. So
The big thing people are asking is it fair? And we get to the end of the show and we bring up something that everybody want to talk about. Cliffhanger.
That means they got to come back next week, Brother Love.
Hey, so tune in next week so we can go ahead and have the conversation. And Greg, you told them NIL. Let them know what that stands for.
Name, image, likeness.
Hey, Brother Jackson, you don't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Hey, until next Monday on Let's Talk Nation with the General and myself, hey, we look forward to having the conversation. See you next week.